Then the sink stops draining. House.
House after house, the same warning appeared.
Then the problem reaches the street, and nobody knows why.
Because underneath all of them,
the entire system has started to fail. And this is only the beginning. At 8 a.m., something beneath this city stops. Not the electricity.
Not the water supply.
The sewers. Millions of gallons of wastewater are still being created. But suddenly, it has nowhere to go.
For the first few minutes, almost nobody notices.
What if the sewer happens 6 hours later?
Every day, a modern city produces an enormous stream of wastewater from homes, offices, hospitals, restaurants, and factories. Beneath the streets, networks of pipes collect that wastewater and move it toward treatment facilities.
Gravity does much of the work in many systems.
But where terrain makes gravity alone impossible, lift stations and pumps move wastewater to where it needs to go.
At treatment plants, wastewater normally passes through multiple stages before treated effluent is discharged.
Screening. Primary clarification. Primary intradation weit down die Perswinstension and Waikrivo Austin trace.
Biological treatment.
You almost never think about this system. And that's precisely because, when it works, you don't have to.
1 hour after the failure, the city above may still look almost completely normal. Water is still entering buildings.
People are showering, washing dishes, and flushing toilets.
But underground, wastewater hasn't stopped entering the collection system. And wet wells begin taking on additional volume.
Operators would quickly see alarms from affected infrastructure.
Control, we have a high-pressure alarm at pump station 4.
Emergency procedures would begin.
Crews would try to identify the failure, isolate affected sections, and restore pumping where possible.
Backup generators. And temporary bypass pumping could become crucial. Because the longer normal flow remains interrupted.
The less invisible this problem becomes.
Six hours later, the problem may no longer be underground.
Exactly where failures appear first would depend on the city's sewer design, elevation, available capacity, and the location of the failure.
But overloaded or blocked systems can surcharge.
Wastewater may begin backing up into low-lying buildings or escaping through overflow points.
Businesses in affected areas.
Basements are particularly vulnerable.
And now the public begins to understand something strange.
Hospitals and other critical facilities become a priority.
A city doesn't need to lose electricity
to start shutting down. Whatever was causing the pressure spikes originated just beyond this point, and we were about to find out what it was.
By the end of the first day, sanitation becomes the central problem.
Authorities would likely focus on stopping additional wastewater from overwhelming affected areas. Residents could be told to reduce water use where necessary.
Every shower, washing machine, and toilet adds more wastewater to a system already struggling to move it. Emergency crews could deploy generators or bypass pumps around failed infrastructure.
Roads near overflows may need to be closed. Buildings affected by sewage backups may become temporarily unusable.
And the consequences begin moving beyond individual properties.
If untreated sewage reaches storm drains, strains, or rivers,
the failure becomes an environmental emergency too.
What began beneath the streets is now spreading outward.
Continue into the next section with a deliberate pause.
By day 2, the most serious threat may be something you can't see. Untreated sewage can contain bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and other disease-causing organisms. Direct contact with contaminated water can create health risks.
That's why authorities keep people away from sewage-contaminated streets, basements, and waterways.
Cleanup isn't simply a matter of removing dirty water.
Contaminated spaces may require protective equipment, cleaning, and disinfection.
Meanwhile, every additional failure adds pressure to emergency crews.
The city is still standing.
Electricity may still work. Phones may still work. We understand your concerns about the current situation, but please remain calm. Grocery stores may still have food.
Yet something as ordinary as safely using a bathroom is becoming a serious infrastructure problem.
And we're only on day 2.
And so the struggle persists into the night. While most of the city rests,
by day 3, the crisis begins connecting systems that normally seem unrelated.
Businesses need functioning sanitation. Schools need functioning sanitation.
Hospitals need reliable wastewater service.
Buildings need safe drainage.
Cleanup crews need somewhere to move contaminated material.
Waterways affected by untreated discharges may require warnings.
Monitoring and restrictions. Iglasafetrartar surprocesset, halbefreikardephai and restrictions.
Economic losses begin accumulating.
Not because the skyscrapers disappeared.
Because ordinary buildings become harder to use safely.
You can didutli pankinen to mean it over jobless. This is the hidden power of infrastructure. When it works, it seems invisible.
When it fails, everything connected to it becomes visible at once.
But now the city has another problem. Emergency equipment can buy time. It cannot replace an entire sewer network forever.
By days 4 and 5, the response becomes a race between wastewater production and restoration.
Engineers need to know exactly what failed.
Was power lost? Did pumps fail?
Did a major line collapse?
Is one section blocking everything upstream?
Crews can inspect sewer lines with cameras.
Deploy temporary pumping.
Isolate damaged infrastructure.
Prioritize critical sections. Utilities may also call on neighboring agencies for equipment and assistance.
The objective is no longer simply to clean up individual overflows. It's to restore enough movement through the system that the city can begin functioning normally again. And every restored pump or reopened pathway changes the equation. 7 days.
If a major city truly experienced widespread wastewater collection failure for this long, emergency measures.
But the exact outcome would depend enormously on how much of the network failed and how quickly utilities could create temporary alternatives. A complete citywide failure is deliberately an extreme thought experiment.
Real systems contain separate sections, redundancies, emergency plans, and different infrastructure designs.
That's important because cities aren't built with one giant sewer switch.
Our scenario shows something else. How dependent modern life is on infrastructure.
Eventually, restoration begins underground. Failed pumps return to service. Blockages are removed. Damaged lines are repaired or bypassed. Temporary pumps keep wastewater moving while permanent equipment is restored.
Crews monitor flow, inspect vulnerable sections, and respond to remaining backups.
As capacity returns, restrictions can gradually be lifted.
Buildings are cleaned. Contaminated areas are disinfected. Environmental impacts still have to be assessed.
And slowly, the city's most invisible transportation network begins moving again.
Not people, not cars, wastewater. Millions of individual actions can once again disappear.
So a city might survive a massive sewer failure, but only through an extraordinary emergency response. But there's another system holding almost everything we just saw together. Electricity.
Electricity.
What happens if that disappears for 30 days?